These are the voices that make Missouri work. This is Profiles from the Heartlander. Senator Holly Rehder, welcome to the Heartlander. Glad you could make it.
Thank you. It's exciting to be on.
You are a representative of a part of the state that maybe a lot of us, particularly in the northern part of the state, don't get to a lot. The 27th Senate District is, a good chunk of it is the boot heel of Missouri, correct?
Right. It's southeast Missouri. So Scott County is my most southern county, which is where I'm from. And I always like to say Saxton is the gateway to the boot heel. And so that's pretty much the southern tip of my district.
Everyone that we've talked to that represents a certain part of the state, I always kind of like to ask them first, what should we know about the part of the state you come from and you represent?
So my part of the state grows when it's very agriculturally diverse. And, it is a part of the Delta still, and a lot of people don't know that. So the southern part, Scott County, where I'm from, is the beginning of the Delta. And we grow everything, cotton, lots of soybean, corn, we have just wheat. The list is pretty spread, and you just don't see that rice. You just don't see that in other parts of the state, that you have all of the row crops.
Agriculture, and that's something interesting too when we talk with folks who represent large agricultural districts. Then they come and they visit more kind of, if you want, metropolitan areas like St. Louis or Kansas City, where we sit now in Clay County, more densely populated areas. And now you're running statewide, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But as you travel, obviously, there are wildly diverse parts of the state from where you come versus maybe downtown Kansas City or something. Talk about that.
Right. So it's been very interesting. But, growing up, I moved over 30 times. So, and I've lived California, Florida, Texas multiple times. I was born in Memphis, spent my youngest years in Dallas. My mom and daddy were from southeast Missouri, so we always went back there. But I grew up in very different, diverse cultures, and moving multiple times a year. And so Missouri is an incredibly diverse state, but my district is as well. I have 7 counties right now, and so at the very northern point, I have iron, lead, I have the mines. And so then in the hills, we have a lot of the cattle farming. And then you head south and you have more row crops. And so we have a ton of tourism with our rivers and streams. And so my district actually is a great representation of the state as a whole. Other than, of course, metropolitan Cape Girardeau is our largest city in the district. But
home of famous Missourian Rush Limbaugh, by the way, the late great.
Absolutely.
Rush Limbaugh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's I think it's a tourist site for a lot of conservatives, isn't it?
It should be. Yeah. If it's not, it should be. They need to add it to their list.
How long have you been in the legislature?
I've been in the Senate for 4 years, and I was in the House for 8.
What did you learn during that time? So that's a good run, over a decade in the legislature so far. And now you've decided to step up and run for lieutenant governor, which I do want to talk about in a minute. But what have you taken from your time in the legislature?
I grew up very different than what you find in elected office, and very frustrating at first. As coming in as a business owner, I was the last say when it came to decisions that affect my business. Coming in as a business owner, you find out quickly that, you have to go get 80 plus people to be in agreement with you on a bill when you're in the House to get something passed. And so you really learn quickly to spend the time educating others and working with others. But also, God really quickened in my spirit my first session, as I found myself fighting with my side of the aisle, fighting with Democrats over things like the opioid epidemic and things that I grew up in, drug addiction, sexual abuse, domestic violence. When I was fighting with folks on my side of the aisle and being so frustrated, God really quickened in my spirit, they don't know what they don't know. You have to show them. And put a face to it, explain. You grew up in these situations. One of my stepdads was a dealer. I grew up in situations that many people voting and that are in elected office have just never seen. And so I learned patience and wrote my memoir. I'm a writer, and that was primarily to help put a face to the struggles and just the starting block that many others come from. So when it comes to government programs, you can't mash everybody into this same box where you have people who let their compassion override their common sense, and put these programs together to help people, but they're not helping because, something like, okay, well, we're going to pay for people's college, to go back to college. Well, number one, as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for somebody else's college. I went to college. It took me 17 years to get my degree because I did it while I was working full time and raising a family and paying for it. But when, as government officials, you think, oh, this is a great idea, we're going to help people who couldn't get their college degree. Well, the folks that that you say you're intending this for, people who are poor, who didn't have the opportunities, they have bills and families to support. They can't just quit what they're doing because, somebody's giving them free college and go jump into school. Like it doesn't work. But the people saying, let's do this is going to be a great benefit, don't get that.
So your sense of it is you have a very kind of on-the-ground, granular appreciation of what government can and can't do in the lives of people who struggle.
Right. Because so often, I watch the system hold intelligent women back from ever rising to their potential.
Interesting. What I think George Bush once called the soft bigotry of low expectations, maybe?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Your book, and I do want to talk a little about that too. You wrote extensively about your background, which was a difficult one to be sure. And you've kind of laid out why you think that's important in your own personal story and how you can relate to voters. I don't know how many legislators are in your position that have a story quite so raw and have written it in book form. You may be one of the only ones that I know of.
Right. I think I probably am. And but I do think that it's so important. I've had legislators tell me, oh my goodness, this has opened my eyes. I can totally see what you're saying now where before I never could. But I've had others, I've had men reach out to me and say, Holly, thank you for helping me understand my mother, the struggles that she went through, that I never could comprehend the reason that she would act the way that she did at certain times. Now I know. When it comes to dealing with mental illness and when it comes to dealing with addiction and domestic violence, where you just continually go back and go back. Those are things that's hard for people to understand when they've never been around it.
Do you think as we approach the fall, I think there's serious discussion about whether the issue of abortion would wind up on the ballot as well, along with all the candidates. If it does, I always hate to ask this through the prism of gender, but you are a woman, and obviously that issue often most directly impacts women, although I know there's a great debate about whether men should have something to say about it, obviously. But is this something that concerns you as a Missouri woman, talking to other Missouri women, being on the ballot this fall, if in fact it makes it there?
It does. It does. And, I'm 100% pro-life. I feel life begins at conception. And, I got married at 15. I had to quit school at 15 to help take care of my family. I got married at 15. I got pregnant 4 months later. I'd never been around babies. My youngest sister was just 3 years younger than me. Abortion was never considered. It wasn't, I had done this. This was my responsibility to handle. My mother didn't help me. I was homeless at times when I was pregnant. And abortion was never considered because the Bible is what matters to me. And at the end of the day, when I lay my head down, God is the only person that I want to please in my day. And yes, having a baby at 16 was hard, and not having parental help was hard. I traded 3 of my mother's romance novels in at the book bug for a Dr. Spock book, and I learned how to take care of my child from reading a book and the ladies at the health department. It can be done. Abortion is not any type of a solution, and so I hate to have that as an option, because there are so many families who would love to have a baby. There are other options.
This is what I wonder when you were talking about your colleagues having a sensitivity to what you bring to the table. I have heard it said many times, particularly in some of the pro-life circles that I've, Liberty Women's Clinic, for instance, in Clay County. What I have learned is talking to women about help and alternatives and coming alongside them first, rather than talking about the issue of abortion, yay or nay, it goes a long way. It sounds like that's kind of what you're saying too. Let's talk to women about where they are and how we can help when they're frightened, as opposed to just tell them, you gotta keep the baby.
Right. And there are options. There are wonderful options. And I think that if you feel that you can't take care of your baby, then that's a show of love, is giving your baby to someone who can, But I feel that for so many people, acting as if that's not a child yet is deceiving, and it's harmful to that pregnant mother, because she will go through a lot over the coming years after making a choice to abort her child.
We have talked before about the issue of school choice. This is something that I bring up with most
I love this
legislators.
issue.
Yeah, who come, most Republicans who have come through, and I talk with them. I say, getting closer, incrementally closer, and that's better than nothing. I think I speak for you when I say you're probably not where you want to be with it yet. And now running for lieutenant governor, and again, I am going to get there. But is there more work to be done there? What do you think is the holdup from going, maybe let's call it universal school choice, like we see to our neighbors in the north in Iowa or to our south in Arkansas?
Right. So, look, when I got to Jefferson City, I had no idea, but the school lobby, the school establishment, education establishment lobby is the strongest lobby. I mean, you have people who come up and lobby on bills while they're being paid on taxpayer dollars, and they're coming up on our taxpayer dollars lobbying against parents getting a choice in their child's education. So that's wrong out of the gate, right? As a mother of 3, and this is the story that I tell on the floor or in meetings, as a mother of 3, my oldest daughter, very academically inclined. Now, she had to study. She had to work hard for her grades, but she made great grades. I raised them in Sykeston. We about a population of 17,000. So not a real small school, but not a big school, Great sports teams, all of the things. She did well at Sykeston. My middle son is dyslexic like me. He absolutely was lost in the size classrooms and in the activities and all of the things going on in the classrooms in Sykeston. What I would have done had I could have afforded to just take him 15 miles to the smaller school that had smaller classrooms, less activities, more focus in the classroom, he would have really excelled there. Now, he's doing wonderful as a man. He's one of the best cable techs I know, and smart, smart, smart. I'm smart. I'm dyslexic. It just means we learn different. Our brains are wired different. We learn different. And a regular classroom is not set up for those of us who are dyslexic. He needed a smaller classroom. My youngest son completely excelled in all the sports, all the studies. Christian absolutely could have been put in any school and done a great job because that's who he is. And he can handle all the things going on around him, and he still can learn and focus. So as a parent, I wish I could have had the choice to take my middle son and put him in the smaller school where he could have learned something. He could have felt good about himself instead of coming home every day feeling like he failed again, when it was simply because the class is not set up to teach him the way that he needs to learn.
The next governor, lieutenant governor of Missouri, assuming you maintain a healthy Republican majority and assuming the Republicans are all on board, what would the role be, or is there a role to play by the governor, the lieutenant governor, to usher through even more aggressive school choice reform?
Yes, I think that is one thing that we have not had, and that is the executive branch really pushing for this. Education, parent-driven education is what we need in this state. And we should be able, parents should be able to say, I'm going to give my child a ride to 15 miles away to get them into the school that you know they're going to excel in. We have children who are graduating but who have not attained the level of education that they should have when they graduate. We have colleges who are absolutely complaining because they're having to do all of these courses that are remedial just to get kids to college level. Well, then you have taxpayers and parents who are paying for classes that these kids should have learned in high school. And so it's just, it's that drip of water that hits the pool, and then you see these ripples. That is what is happening with us not having just options in our education system, and it's harming Missouri all the way through to our workers, the education of our workers, the ability for people to be successful when you come out of high school and you know that you've just been passed through. That you don't feel good about yourself. You don't have that confidence when a lot of times it's just because you weren't in the right spot. You weren't in the right place to teach you.
Final question, Lieutenant Governor, you're running. You're asking Missourians to vote for you. What do you want Missourians to know about you attaining this role? What do you intend to do with it?
So, the Lieutenant Governor's job is you are the face of tourism. You are the ombudsman for the veterans and the elderly. The Buy Missouri program, you run that. I was a business owner for 17 years, small business owner for 17 years. Started it with an idea that God put in my head and heart. Successful business owner for 17 years, I should say. The Buy Missouri program, absolutely, without a doubt, can easily be very proud to support and promote buying in Missouri, buying from Missouri products. Supporting our elderly and our veterans, I've done that for years through the legislature, and it would be such an honor to be able to do it from the Lieutenant Governor's position and platform. Tourism, PR is my background. That is my education. It took me 17 years to get my college degree, but I did it in public relations, and I would love that. I'm a country girl, fields and streams. I love fishing is what I love to do. Kayaking, we have so much. Our state is blessed with tourism.
Where's the best fishing in Missouri, by the way?
Well, so It's in southeast Missouri,
Okay.
if you ask
Not
me.
that
I
you're
live
partial.
on the Mississippi, yeah. But I've not gotten to go trout fishing yet, and I do know that Bennett Springs is the best
on earth.
of the best, and
That's
so
my favorite.
it's on my list for this year. But those things are not a full-time job. And just as I've done in the House as a representative, and as I've done in the Senate as a senator, I've not just kept the job within the parameters of the job. I've not just gone in and pushed a button and voted on things. I've worked on the issues that other people don't want to touch. And as Lieutenant Governor, that office, it gives opportunity to be able to really delve into a few of the things that are absolutely affecting the state. One is our departments. Our departments, after being a senator and a representative, I know that our departments have some issues. The governor is putting out fires every day. The governor is working on the budget. Their position is full and overflowing. But to have somebody from the executive branch that can really delve into, why are these departments not working for us? Why is our children's division, why is our foster care system outpacing all other states our size? Other states' foster care system that's about our size, 3,000 to 6,000 kids. Ours has 14,000 kids. Why is that? Why do we have such a shortage of state workers when it comes to our children's division? These are all things that must be fixed. And when it comes to someone like me who grew up in incredible child abusive situations, and I had it great compared to many that lived around me, and we need somebody from the executive branch that can really delve in, find these problems. And it's not for the human capital of our state, but then also, even if you say you don't care about that, that's not something that's on your radar, which it should be. The fiscal impact that it does to our state's budget is also important. And so that's what I intend to do as Lieutenant Governor, is to expand the work that office does and to actually get into some of these things that have needed someone from the executive branch for quite some time.
Senator Rehder, thanks for making the trip all the way up north.
Thank you for having me. It's so exciting.
And good luck on your run.
Thank you.